Our scripture reading this morning is taken from the book of Luke. We're going to be looking at chapter 14 and verses 25 through 35. Luke 14, starting with verse 25. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Will he not first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything, he cannot be my disciples. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Amen. Counting the cost. What does it cost? I was doing a little research because I got to thinking about the fact that when I got married, gas was 35 cents a gallon and salt was like 12 cents a box. Now, of course, when I got married, I was working for like $2.65 an hour too. So, you got to take that into account. But these are costs from the 1950s. Cheese was 45 cents a pound. Not bad. Campbell's tomato soup, 10 cents a can. Goes with the cheese. Coffee, 35 cents a pound. Price of coffee doesn't bother me. I don't drink it, but I know that some of you get stressed. Eggs, 79 cents a pound, and sugar, 43 cents a pound. And just so you know, a pack of cigarettes was less than 50 cents. Because it was 50 cents in the 70s. I don't know what it was in the 50s. Interesting numbers. What does it cost? Today, cheese is $4 plus a pound. Depends on the cheese that you buy. It can go pricey. That's the average. Can of Campbell's soup anywhere from 99 cents to $1.02. Depends on where you shop and if you got a coupon. Coffee, $7 a pound. And sometimes more depending on the coffee. Sugar, 64.23 cents per pound. The guy was a little more detailed than I normally am, but I couldn't resist. So you buy a 5-pound bag of sugar for 5 times whatever that is. I'm not going to do your math. There's no two ways about it. The cost of everything has increased. We have to count the cost in everything that we do. The cost of your salvation, the price that was paid, hasn't changed. What does it cost? What does it cost to be a disciple of Jesus Christ? The scripture starts out by saying how large crowds of people were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them he said. See, large crowds were traveling with him because he was feeding them. He was working miracles for them. And he was confronting their known authorities. You see, there was that faction in the society that really believed that Jesus was going to lead an actual physical rebellion, that he was going to raise up troops and overthrow Rome. And so anytime he questioned authority, anytime he came into any kind of conflict with the Pharisees or anyone, people were hopeful that this is what he was doing. And so they followed him.
And who doesn't follow for a free meal? Right? He didn't sell Christianity, though, as a benefit package. He turns to this crowd and he says to them, and we really don't like this, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father, his mother, his wife, his children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." That's pretty hard. I mean, that's really pretty hard. I don't know about you, but I love my kids. I love my grandkids. And Jesus is saying you can't? Jesus was an expressive human being. And this is basically a hyperbole. He's trying to make you understand that he needs to be first. It's okay to love your spouse. It's okay to love your children, but not more than you love him. And in Scripture, he tells us that following him is a choice we have to make, and there will be hardships, there will be loss, and there will be difficulties. When I came to know Christ and started to live for him, I lost friends. They thought I had fallen off the cliff. My own mother said, "Don't you think you're getting a little bit fanatical?" Not according to Christ. "Anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." What's your cross? We know what his cross was. We know how hard it was for him to carry it. And we also know that he gave an example in Scripture of what it's like for someone else to carry his cross. And we will talk about that next week. We are coming into what we call Holy Week or Passion Week. You see, Jesus is passionate about us. Think about what you're passionate about. You know, I was thinking about the sermon yesterday as I'm following my granddaughter up a mountain where no one my age in their right mind should have been. Climbing up over rocks, something I haven't done for years. She was leading the way. She was picking the trails and I was following her. And this scripture came into my mind. You know, I love her. I'm so passionate about my grandkids. If you let me, I'll go on forever. But I try not to do that. But I love her. I would literally lay down my life for my grandkids. I would do that. If someone had us together and said it's either you or her, it would be me. No sweat. I would do that because I love her. Jesus says to love him even more than that. To be willing to lay down our lives for him. We have a hard time laying aside an hour on Sunday morning. And heaven help us if we're thinking about another hour on Wednesday. That'd be 2 hours we'd set aside. Good heavens, what do people expect? Now, you know I'm being facetious. But the reality is, he should be in our thoughts and our minds in every decision we make. He should be the person we start the day with and the person we end the day with. We should be as passionate about him as we are about our golf game or our bowling score or our dinner date. We should be that passionate about him. We should take time with him. This is what he's talking about. Carry your cross. He wants total submission. And he says it. Without it, he who will not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. So the question becomes, do I want to be a disciple of Christ? Or am I just comfortable being a pew warmer? You know, getting my Sunday morning hit and then I can go. Do I want to be a disciple of Christ? Do I want to learn everything I can about him? Do I want my life to reflect him? And everybody answers these questions for themselves. And there's no right or wrong answer, because how that plays out in my life might be different than how it plays out in yours. The question is, can I do it? Suppose somebody wants to build a tower. Doesn't he first sit down and estimate the price? Now, I've never built a house. I always bought them already built. But I still count the cost of buying one. I only once in my entire life bought a new car. My daughter totaled it. We went back to buying used. It's just less aggravating that way. You know. And part of the reason I don't is because I know you pay a nice price for a new car and you drive it off the lot and it's like worthless. So why not just buy a used one to start with? Because for most of us, it's a status thing. It's not a need thing. Can we count the cost? Do we count the price of serving Christ? Do we understand that our family might think we're nuts? They might. They might not. Depends on what kind of family you come from, whether they love the Lord too or not. Oh, you know, you could really be in church too much. Well, being in church doesn't make you a Christian. It's how you live your life. Are you a Christian when somebody butts in line in front of you when you've been standing there for 40 minutes waiting on something? Are you a Christian when you've got all your stuff on the line and the teller says, "Oh, I'm closing"? You know, the lady at the grocery store. Have you ever had, am I the only person that's ever happened to? She's like, "I got half my stuff on the thing," and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm closing." Okay. So I got to put it all back in the cart and go somewhere else. Are we Christians then? Do we count the cost? If he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, "That fellow began to build and was not able to finish." What have you started in your life with the best of intentions, but didn't really calculate what it might cost you? How much time it might take out of your life if you serve the Lord? Because you got to find time to pray. When am I going to do that? I used to tell the teenagers, you take a shower every day, pray while you're in there. You already know how to wash yourselves. You don't have to think, "Oh, I got to do my hair, now I got to do this, and I got to..." Come on. And you got to understand, teenagers are in there a good 20 minutes, maybe 25, maybe half an hour. It's a nice prayer time for them. Probably for some of us as well. I have to spend time in relationship, which means I have to read. And there's nothing against the upper room, but that doesn't really count as reading your scripture. It's better than nothing, but gee, sit down and read. It's a relationship. Count the cost. I've been working with a teenage girl for almost 2 years now. And her response to me every time I ask her about whether or not she's choosing Christ is this: "I'm still counting the cost. I know what it will mean. It will mean I can't go to the parties that I go to now. It'll mean I have to stop sleeping with my boyfriend. I'm counting the cost." You know, I'd rather spend time with somebody like that than somebody who's pretending. She's counting the cost. Suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. I've never actually done this. I used to play a game online that I was building a kingdom, but I was not good at war, so it didn't work out for me, so I quit playing. You know, what do I know about war? Seriously. The only warfare I know about is spiritual warfare. Count the cost. You have to build an army. You have to decide how many people are expendable. I mean, you really do. Because you're going to lose some. Unless, of course, you're like Joshua, who overtook Jericho without losing anyone. Because God was in it. Because God was in it. Because God was in it. Counting the cost. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. You got to be putting me on. Everything I have. How willing are you to give up everything you have to follow Christ? You see, it's about the attitude of our heart. Are these possessions yours and mine, or are they God's? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. He's asking for us to be willing. To be willing. Do you know how hard it would be if God suddenly called me to Africa? I don't like heat. Just saying. I don't like bugs, and I certainly don't want to eat them. But am I willing? You know, if he calls me, I would go. I haven't sensed that call, but he laid his life down for me. How can I say, no, I want to be comfortable? He took a beating for me. How can I say, no, I want to be comfortable? Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? And I refuse to put that on the screen after the last time. You see, following Christ will cost you something. And if it doesn't, you're probably not doing it right. It will cost you something because you're going to want to serve him. When you realize who he is and what he's done, you are going to want to serve him. We are promised a kingdom. You know, Jean's got a kingdom. She believed the promise. And she lived like she believed it. Not perfectly. None of us are perfect. She actually talked to her children about Christ. Holy cow. Really? My father used to mention Jesus. Yeah. Usually when he was changing a tractor tire. Other than that, you didn't hear Jesus mentioned by my dad. My mom drug us to Sunday school, but she never talked to us about Jesus. She never talked to us about heaven or hell. She just brought us to church because that's the church's job. No, it's not. It's yours. It's mine. It's not the church's job to give your kids a Christian education. That's yours. It's not the church's job to give your grandchildren a Christian education. That's yours. And here's the deal with kids. They're watching. And you might say this to them, but if you're living opposite, guess what they think? Yeah. There is a cost to serving Christ. There's a cost. You have to make decisions. Should I do this? How does this glorify God? If I do this, how does it glorify God? Does the way I treat people glorify God? Do the things I have in my home glorify God? I am an avid believer in garbage in, garbage out. I am. The Bible's very clear. Whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is holy, whatever is noble, think on those things. That's what it says. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. When we first became Christians, we cleaned out our house. Books. Well, you have to understand, although I was raised in the church, I really didn't have an inkling what it was to follow Christ. And so things creeped into our house. Books on astrology, or not astrology, yeah, astronomy, you know, Pisces and that stuff, whichever one that is, creeped into our house. Really horrible movies. Horrible movies. They creeped into our house. I am a fan of Criminal Minds. I do not in any way, shape, or form think that that will turn me into a mass murderer. However, I was watching one the other night that I went, maybe I better think about this. Because it was so anti-Christian that it wasn't even funny. And it was so New Age, blatantly New Age, that it wasn't even funny. And I'd never noticed that before, and I'm sure it's because I've been working on this. God's going, look how easy it is to lose your saltiness. Look how easy it is to not be paying attention. Look how easy it is not to be what I have called you to be. Look how easy it is to put down your cross. Look how easy it is to compromise with the world. Look what can happen when you are not looking. And so as I'm sitting here looking at Scripture, thinking about the sermon and watching Criminal Minds, I went, okay, I get it. I get it. What do we bring into our homes? Does it glorify God? These are our homes. These are where we go to rest. This is the place where we are raising our children. Does it glorify God? Do we take up our cross? Do we count the cost of building a tower? The cost of building a Christian family? All of those things we need to answer for ourselves. But Jesus is the one that says, anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Are we kidding ourselves? Are we kidding ourselves about our discipleship? I'm just trying to challenge you to think today. I'm not trying to lay guilt. Because if I'm laying guilt, baby, I'm piling it right here first. But just to challenge us, can we actually call ourselves disciples? Are we willing to say, Christ, you are more important than my father, than my mother, than my wife, husband, sorry guys, children, brothers and sisters? Brothers and sisters are easy, heck yeah. He's more important than they. No. Even your own life. I mean, these are Jesus' words. He wants to know, is he more important than your own life? Is he more important than your own life? Well, I know there's an event at church today, but I'm going out with friends. Is he more important than your own life? See, it doesn't necessarily mean if you have the choice to make to live or die for Christ. It means, are you living your life for Christ? That's what it means. And again, I'm piling it right here. Those are hard questions, but we all have to answer them. Because this is what Jesus says it takes to be considered his disciple. It's not easy. It's just not easy. And we get very excited when we first come to know Christ. And boy, we're just on fire and we'll just do whatever. But you walk with the Lord 30 years and it's kind of habit. They don't have the enthusiasm that you had once. And I'm talking the spiritual enthusiasm. I'm not talking the physical ability. Because 30 years ago, I could have hiked the mountain with my granddaughter and still breathed when I got to the top. Instead of going 10 or 12 steps that were built for giants and going, Savannah, just wait. I'm talking spiritual. Are you still excited about Jesus? When you first came to know him, weren't you excited? Didn't you have that love relationship? Wasn't he the best thing that ever happened to you? Do you still feel that way 30 years later? 40 years later? Are you still willing to pick up the cross and follow him? These are the questions we ask ourselves. Does he call us his disciple? Am I a disciple of Christ? Am I? I don't like the fact, Joel Osteen has built a church on nothing bad is ever going to happen to you. And that's kind of a lie right out of the pit of hell. I'm just telling you. Jesus never said, come to me and your life will be wonderful. Jesus never said that. Jesus said, count the cost. It's going to cost you something to follow me. You remember the story of the rich young ruler? I mean, this guy did everything right, but he was rich. And he was young. And when we're young, we know everything. Don't we? And all Jesus said to him was, you followed all the commandments? Kid's going, yeah. He said, then go and sell everything that you have and come and follow me. He couldn't give up lunch. Well, I'd have to give up the parties with my friends. I might have to show up to do a work project. But if I have other plans, this kid is going, I can't do it. I can't give up my entire life. I won't do it. And he walks away from eternity. He walks away. Jesus sees our heart. He knows our willingness. And he knew that man was going to not be able to let go of his stuff. See, he doesn't tell us today, well, Wilma, sell your house, sell your car, and come and follow me. He doesn't do that. He says, Wilma, are you willing to sell your house and sell your car and come and follow me? If I ask you to, will you do it? See the difference? He asked the young ruler, and he wouldn't do it. The condition of our heart matters to God. Without it being focused on him, we cannot be his disciples. Our job in this world is to make sure the world knows about him. And that's a heavy responsibility. Because the world's watching. And what are they seeing? Are they seeing a generous person? Are they seeing a fulfilled person? Are they seeing a grouch? Are they seeing a whiner and a complainer? Why would I want your Jesus? Or are they seeing that person who has gone through unbelievable stress, unbelievable things in their lives, and they're still saying, if it weren't for Jesus, I would never get through. They're still giving him the glory. Are we taking up our cross and following him? Our closing hymn this morning is I Have